Hey everyone, it's Steve from the garden. In this video, I'm going to go over simple tips that you can do now to give yourself a bigger harvest. You can see off to your left that my peonies are starting to bloom, so good thing. Let's get started. Since I got spotty germination on this corn, I got some spots where there's two plants, there's a gap, one, two plants, and on this side, I got multiples. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull some of those out and fill in these gaps. In this spot, I got 3 plants. So I'm going to leave the largest plant. I'm just going to use a popsicle stick and try to get underneath one of these other ones. Tease it out. Now I'm going to use this plant to fill in the gap that's right here. So I'm just going to pull back some of the mulch on the top. Dig a little hole with the stick and fill that back in. Now one thing I did is last night I went through and watered these beds real well so that this morning the soil would still be moist. It makes it easier to get the plants out and gives them the best chance to get reestablished when I put them back in. My grapevine is starting to produce grapes, so it's time for me to thin out the extra clusters. So what I want to do is I want to keep just one cluster per node. So each node is just one spot on this vine. So I have a nice cluster here, and then it's producing a second one here, which is actually still pretty good. And then it's got another small one up here. So I'm going to snip this off. I'm actually going to snip this off right above this branch right here. And then I will snip off this cluster. Now this vine is big enough I could probably support 2 clusters per node, but with the length of this vine, I just want to make sure it produces a good cluster and gives it the best shot. Another thing I want to do is I want to eliminate some of the excess vegetation on here. So I have a nice cluster here. This cluster will come off, and then I will snip it up here to help limit the growth. The same with this one. I have a nice cluster, and I'm going to snip off that extra growth. I'm also going to come through and harvest some of my basil. These plants are definitely big enough where they can support that. Now I'm going to cut them back, roughly a third or so. And what I want to do is cut them right above one of the stems, because then that way they will branch out and produce more basil and also produce a stockier plant. Now when I come through and cut these, I am cutting right above where the stem meets. And then you can see how it's got like these 2 shoots right here. These will branch out and start producing new ones. And I'll do the same thing on this one right here. And that one will do the same thing. It will just start branching out. Another thing I want to do is thin out the apples on this tree. By thinning them out, the tree will be less stressed for producing the fruit, and you'll get bigger fruit. So this is a great example. You got this bigger one here, and then you got a small one, and then they're both on the same node. So what I want to do is I want to snip off that small one and just leave that big one in place. This tree is in its first year of producing fruit, so I am really limiting the number of fruit I'm going to allow it to produce. So here we got just a couple, and I trimmed off any extras. And overall, I'm not going to let this tree produce more than, say, like 10 apples. I'm also weighing down the branches on this tree, at least the larger ones, by tying twine to them and attaching that twine to the bricks on the bottom. By causing these branches to go horizontal, that's supposed to encourage the tree to produce more fruiting spurs, so that it'll be ready to produce more fruit next year. This tree off to your left is another tree where I weighted down the branches to encourage the fruiting spurs to form. But that's it for this video. Hope you enjoyed. Hope you got something out of it. And we'll see you on the next one.